Yep.
Okay. Hello everyone, so today we're starting our new unit of Science 8, so it's Unit B, Cells and Systems. So what are we doing today? So we're going to describe the role of a cell as a basic unit of life. We're also going to analyze the similarities and differences of a single-celled and multicellular organism. So first off, what I want you guys to do is take a minute or so and think in your head or write down what is a cell, what is the definition of a cell. So everyone kind of take a minute to do that. I'll go around a little bit. So do you have kind of an idea of a definition of a cell that you can think of?
I would call a cell a functional living unit.
Functional living unit? Okay, that's a good start. Yeah, I like that. So, Jenna, can you tell me your definition of a cell?
Sure, just like adding off of what he has.
Yeah, sure, or whatever you came up with on your own.
So, functional unit of, right? And then with specific organelles that help it to carry out its functions.
Yeah, that's a good one. What about your definition?
I just said that it's a building block of life.
Good, that's a really good definition. I like that. So, my definition is the smallest functional and structural unit of an organism / life. So, how it was discovered? So Robert Hooke in 1665 was using a microscope, and he actually took a segment of a cork and put it under his microscope, but the magnification wasn't good enough for him to see that the cells were actually alive. He just saw the cell walls and saw the empty shells. And then a little over 10 years later, Anton van Leeuwenhoek saw that cells were actually living organisms and they're more just than empty cells. This is due to the fact that he had a much better microscope and the magnification was much greater. So everything is made of cells, so everything from plants to insects, bacteria, animals, and everyone on Earth. Everything is made of cells. It's the basic building block. So yeah, basic building blocks of life. You got the definition correct. And I like to think of them as Lego blocks. So a cell could be like a little Lego block, and then it's a small part of your structure. So it's like that small part of your spaceship or your Lego house that you built. So, oh sorry, the formatting got kind of skewed there. So now we're going to talk about multicellular and unicellular organisms. So Joanne, what is a multicellular organism?
These are organisms that has multiple cells in their body, and yeah.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Okay, and Blake, what is a unicellular organism then?
An organism that is one-celled.
One cell. Good job. So yeah, again, multicellular, an organism consisting of many cells. So that would be like a human being, for instance, where more than one cell. A unicellular is an organism consisting of only one cell. So an example of this would be like a bacteria cell. So the whole organism in its entirety is only one cell. So they're typically very small. And this is a little joke I have. I would join a multicellular organism, but I value my independence. I thought that was funny. So similarities. What is a similarity you could have between a multicellular organism and a unicellular? William, can you think of anything that they would have in common?
Some of the, they both have cytoplasm, and then inside they share certain organelles.
Yeah, so like our cells and a unicellular organism, they might have structurally some things in common. Jenna, can you think of anything else that they might have in common?
Nope.
No. Well, I'll give you a little hint. So both multicellular and unicellular organisms demonstrate basic functions for life. So is there something that they both do that they would have in common looking at this definition?
Will like carry out life functions like respiration because they have vacuoles, both of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So something that they both do is reproduce. So here we have an amoeba, and it's actually undergoing binary fission, so it basically just splits itself in half, and that's how they reproduce. Here I have a picture of a whale and its baby, so they will sexually produce with another mate. Takes a little bit longer. A killer whale can't just clone itself. But what I want you guys to get out of this is, yes, they do the same thing. They both reproduce, but they may do that reproduction in a different way. Same with their metabolism. So this is a Venus flytrap catching a fly. And here we have an amoeba engulfing a bacteria. So it makes little arms and actually kind of like wraps the arms around and then absorbs the bacteria. So yes, they are doing it in different ways, but they are in fact both eating. And then DNA. So this is a typical human DNA. It's a double strand, double helix. They both have DNA. They both pass on their DNA to their young or their daughter cells. And then this is a bacterial DNA. So bacterial DNA is in a ring or a circle. It's not twisted or in a double helix like ours would be, but they both do have that DNA. So differences. Joanne, what would be a difference between a multicellular organism and a unicellular, other than the amount of cells that they have?
The unicellular organisms do not have the nuclear membrane, based on the book I read last night. So they don't have nuclear membrane, and they only have, that's why it's called nucleoid. Those are the unicellular organisms.
Can you think of anything?
A unicellular organism, well, since it only has one cell, so they're not as dynamic, or they can't do as many things, I guess.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. So some differences. Multicellular organisms, obviously more than one cell. They have specialized cells compared to unicellular. So we have things like skin cells, brain cells, heart cells, and a unicellular organism, we don't really get that differentiation. We're larger in size. We're much larger than a bacteria or an amoeba would be. So we're typically macroscopic, and we actually do live longer. And then a unicellular. Only one cell, shorter lifespan, much smaller in size. They're typically very microscopic. You'll need a microscope. You can't see them with your naked eye. So looking at these, can anyone tell me what an advantage would be of being a multicellular organism? William.
Well, a unicellular organism is only one cell, so if anything happens to it, then the cell is like done. Its life is done. Whereas a multicellular organism has a second chance. Like if the cell dies.
Yeah, exactly. So if we get a cut on our arm, we're probably going to be okay. But if something happens to the cell, it's probably not going to make it. Good job. So advantages and disadvantages of each. So multicellular advantages. Can anyone think of a disadvantage of being a multicellular organism?
Can't reproduce as faster, probably?
Yeah, so it takes us a lot more time and effort to reproduce. This can also be an advantage though because we have more viable young. We put a lot of effort into making them so they do better compared to a bacteria that makes like millions of children, and then most of them are probably going to die off. So advantages, they're larger in size, longer lifespan, that's the whole point, is to survive. A disadvantage, we require more energy to function, so, and then reproduction is more difficult compared to unicellular. So advantages and disadvantages of being single cell. Advantages require less energy. They can survive in more extreme conditions. So there's actually unicellular organisms that live in ocean vents in these very, very hostile environments. So they have better ways of adaptation compared to multicellular organisms. They reproduce more efficient. Some disadvantages are that they are much smaller in size and have shorter lifespans compared to us. So summary, who invented the cell? Or not invented, sorry, just discovered the cell? Neil, do you remember?
I don't remember, no, I'm sorry.
Hook.
Jeff?
Yeah.
Hook. So think of him like a pirate, Captain Hook. There you go. So cells were discovered in 1665 by Robert Hooke. They're the basic building blocks and the smallest unit of life. What is an analogy we can use for a cell?
Lego.
Lego, there we go, good. Okay, so organisms can be multicellular or unicellular. William, can you tell me one similarity that they have?
They have,
Do you remember it was the 3 things I talked about?
no, I'm sorry.
That's okay, they both have DNA, they both reproduce, and they both what?
Okay.
The last one.
I don't remember.
They have to attain
sorry.
nutrients, so they have to eat. That's okay. No worries. Okay, so what is one difference that they would have then?
So much pressure.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm just a very bad student now.
How about their lifespans?
Oh, multicellular organisms live longer.
Okay, good job. Okay. So yeah, multicellular and unicellular organisms can perform similar functions, but in their own unique ways. And there are both advantages and disadvantages of being multi and unicellular. So Blake, can you tell me one disadvantage of being multicellular?
Need to eat a lot. Need lots of energy.
Yeah,
to
so
survive.
everything requires a lot of energy that we do. Okay, so for next class, we are going to be looking at animal cells and plant cells and kind of delving deeper into them. And one last joke before we end class. Madame Lilia, me too. The single cells. Little sad unicellular organisms all on their own. Okay, and that's all I have for you. Thank you.
Thank you.